So tonight we're going to take a look at a Western Veil Nebula challenge that was posted on the PixInsight forum. And I'm going to do this pretty quickly. I did look at the data, and just I guess the short version is we got some limitations going on, and I'll explain what I see. So here is the data. Just looking at it, it's unstretched. First thing I notice in looking at this is you can see a lot of the stars, the bigger ones. For me, that's usually an indication that you've got some overexposure going on. And you can see this by, for example, if you click over, look at the cores. Yeah, everything's at 1. That means it's captured a lot of information. Now you can get around that by doing shorter exposures and doing what's called an HDR composition. It's not a bad strategy if you want to catch some things that are very, very faint with longer exposures, but it does complicate the process a little bit, and it generally might take you a little bit more time, at least on the calibration side. In any case, that's just one strategy for dealing with this. So let's take a look at the stretch. Okay, so we have a couple things going on here. We've got some edges where it looks like the alignment of the telescope from frame to frame is probably not so good. That's okay, we can fix that with some cropping. It's not unheard of to see that. And if you are doing meridian flips, etc., if you're not doing any type of photometric realignment, closed loop slew, or whatever your platform calls it, you can get this from time to time. So let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to get up our tool here. And there are many ways to do a lot of these things. This is just the way that I like to do it. So I'm going to try to get the edges here, and because there's a bit of a diagonal attitude to this, I'm just going to, come on, circle, here we go. I'm going to rotate it a little bit, try to get as much of this in here as I can. Just kind of skirt the areas where you have a little bit of the vignetting. That should do. Okay. Next thing I noticed is looking at the background, I saw a comment about there being green lines. There's actually multiple colors of lines in here. Some of the brighter ones are indeed green. And maybe somebody else on the forum can correct me on this, but I believe what this is hot pixels that are basically not eliminated, either by way of calibration or integration. One thing that will be really helpful to deal with this is to have a good dithering strategy. Most of the platforms will dither. And essentially what that does is it'll take the image, and then before the next frame it'll move the telescope slightly so that your hot pixels be in a different location. And the result there is that they'll be able to integrate out a lot more effectively. Another thing that would be helpful would be to use cosmetic calibration just to get rid of them before the integration as well. In short, a good calibration process with cosmetic correction, a good strategy for image integration, and of course before it, fixing it before it happens, dithering, that'll help a lot. Looking at the image on a whole, it reminds me of some of my earlier images where there are a lot of stars out of focus. In fact, the ones on the bottom right, I guess they're all pretty, just there's more of them down here. You can see how they look kind of just puffy. You might be able to see a little bit of the optical shape of the telescope. There might be a little bit of, is there a secondary shadow here? So yeah, a bit of the secondary shadow here. What's interesting about this is you can actually use these out of focus images to tell how good the collimation of your telescope is. Assuming this is what I'm looking at, there is some asymmetry in the circle, so it's possible that the optics are not perfectly calibrated or collimated. You can see they're down in the bottom here, which you would expect. A little bit more in the lower left-hand corner over there. Over here, yeah, you just don't see them. Could just be the nature of the optics. Certainly no showstopper, but if you really want the best quality, you want to make sure your optics are properly collimated. So, generally speaking, I wouldn't put a lot of time into something like this. Like if I had images like this in one of my recent series, I'd probably throw an image out that looked like this. But of course, when I was early on, most of my stuff looked like this. And it just takes practice, learning how to capture the data and learning the right way to calibrate the data and then process it. Some things you can do from here, once we have it cropped, we can use DBE or ABE to clean up the background a little bit. Let's just go fast through this. Let's just rip through it really fast, and I'm just gonna wing it and see how we do. I'm literally just gonna do subtraction. I'm just gonna literally run through this thing as fast as I can and see what happens. So get that done here. I might flatten it out a little bit. Not going to worry too much, but we'll just see what happens. Restretch there. I like to restretch between each phase. Definitely have a color cast to the background and a little bit of a... I would probably hit this a little bit more with DB or at least know more what's in the image specs or the optic specs to tell it what to do. So I'm just going to do neutralize background, take a little sample of what I think the general background looks like. I like to use from preview because when you're saving icons, they save better. After this, actually, we'll restretch it, and you'll notice the color casts are more or less gone. That's the magic of neutralizing the background. So we're going to keep this preview right here, and then we're going to do some color calibration. Let's see, we're going to use from preview again for the background, and then we're just going to use 7 layers of the foreground. Let it do its thing. Photometric color calibration generally does a spot-on job. That's why I prefer to use it. This is, I don't think, is accurate. And notice we have a little bit of a green cast here. We can do some SCNR. Green cast is very, very common for these photos. It presents itself as noise, and SCNR will help reduce that or eliminate it. So already we're looking quite a bit better. Let's just take it through a quick stretch. You can see these stars again. They got thrown off by the color calibration and background neutralization, but regardless, when you see one of the colors at or approaching 1, you know you've got some oversaturation going on. Okay, so quick stretch. We open our histogram transformation tool. This is how I like to do it. There are many ways to do it. You can apply it with, you can take screen transfer function here, stretch the image, apply it to the bottom here, and then of course apply histogram transformation. But that's not what I like to do. I like to do it by hand. And really I just go for about 25%. So this line right here, I try to get the main arc of the histogram up around there. Usually can get it in 2 strokes. We're going to turn off the pre-stretch here. Oops. So I'll bring this back. You can see it's starting to come up on the top. You can zoom in a little bit here. Just a little finer control over it. You can see how it's coming up. And that was just the midpoint, so we'll apply that. And then we're going to bring the black point up. Bring it down a bit. I'm looking at this right here, the shadows clipping. I normally aim for a very, very low number. And generally, the better quality data you have, the closer you can get to the base of that that curve there. This isn't too bad, so I'll apply that. Reset, and then I'll bring it back up to the 25% mark. Then reset, close the preview, and then we can do a little bit of a final tweak here. Get rid of that preview with some curves. Let's see what we got. You can go further in. Normally I would hit this with HDR multi-scale transformation to get us a little bit more of the detail in some of the brighter areas, provide a little better view into things. I'm not going to do that tonight. Actually, you're going to see this. You'll see the preview. It's helpful. This is handy if you do it with masks. Why is it not? Oh, computer's slow tonight. And you can see before and after. Bring up a little bit of this. My computer's slow because my hard disk is full. So before, after. So we'll give one more thing here. We've got the curves done. That will apply that. Reset it here, and then we'll try to boost the saturation just a hair and see what kind of colors we get. So you can see where it's going. Definitely a good start. Lots of areas to improve, and it's just a matter of practice and learning how all this stuff works. And eventually you end up getting there. So good luck. Hope this helps.